Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast of The Right Has Left. I am your host, Roy Garden, where we discuss the news from this past week from the Trump administration. And as always, there's never a lack of things to talk about from the White House Trump administration, as you know, the guy just keeps feeding stuff here left and right. But this show is The Right Has Left. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started. And we just, as I said, got a ton of news. Let's get started here with President Trump has just announced that the U.S. will double its current tariff rate on steel and aluminum imports from 25% to 50% starting on Wednesday. Now, Trump said this as he was speaking to a rally in Pittsburgh just yesterday, Friday, and the Pittsburgh rally was made up of mostly U.S. steel workers, so they were, of course, all in agreement with what he had to say. Trump said the move would help boost the local steel industry and national supply while reducing reliance on China. And as we all know, Trump, when he says something, it's gold. At least it's supposed to be. He's always, of course, up and down on what he does with these tariffs. But he said it will reduce, reliance on China. And Trump also said that the $14 billion that would be invested in the area's steel production through a partnership between U.S. Steel and Japan's Nippon Steel will be a great thing for everybody, including the United States. Though he later told reporters that he had not yet seen or approved the final deal. Now, of course, what he says to the public and to his supporters and what he says to the press is two different things, as we all know. The announcement is the latest turn in Trump's roller coaster approach to tariffs since he re-entering office in January. There will be no layoffs and no outsourcing whatsoever, and every U.S. steel worker will soon receive a well-deserved $5,000 bonus, Trump told the crowd. And of course, that excited them, as it would anybody. Now, the announcement comes amid a court battle over the legality of some of his Trump's global tariffs, which an appeals court has allowed to continue after the Court of International Trade ordered that the administration to halt the taxes and tariffs. His tariffs on steel and aluminum were untouched by the lawsuits, however. Now, Joe Burgess, now he's a member of the U.S. Local Steel Union there in Pittsburgh. He's also, believe it or not, the city mayor of nearby Washington, Pennsylvania. He expressed optimism over the reported details of the partnership with Nippon Steel. So far, the impacts of Trump's tariffs have largely led to global economic chaos, as we all know. Global trade and markets have been upended and cracks have formed or widened in relationships between the United States and other countries, including some of its closest partners. Now, as I have discussed in other podcasts here with the tariff situation, it all comes back to the consumers, as we all know. No matter what tariffs Trump's likes to put on the countries around the world, his tariffs consistently bring in higher prices to goods and services here in the United States, because I don't care what kind of tariffs you put on anybody or any product or service, they're going to pass those increased costs on to the consumers, as we saw with Walmart. And of course, Trump was telling Walmart, just hold the prices, absorb the tariff costs. You don't need to pass those on to consumers. Well, what the hell are they supposed to do? Everybody, as he himself should know, is when they're in business, you're in business for a profit. And when you want profits, you got to hold margins. And when you got to hold margins, you're going to pass those on to the consumers. And that, of course, all leads to inflation. Now, having said that, what else is going on in the news today? This. Now, you probably are not familiar with what Planter is. Well, the Trump administration is hiring this company to collect data on all Americans. And I have said all Americans. And they are enlisting the data analysis company, this one right here, to do it. The New York Times recently reported that President Trump has enlisted the firm, founded by right-wing billionaire Peter Thiel, to carry out his March executive order instructing government agencies to share the data with each other. The order has increased fears that the government is putting together a database of wielded intelligence services and powers over the American public. Now, since then, the administration has been very quiet about these efforts, increasing suspicion. Meanwhile, a Platter has taken more than, get this, $113 million in government spending since Trump took office, from both existing contracts and new ones with the Department of Defense and Homeland Security. That number is expected to grow, especially given the firm just won a new $795 million contract with DoD last week. Again, you need to really understand this. This company is going to be collecting data via all government sources through Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever the census, whatever they need to do, because, Trump is that paranoid that the guy really wants to know what everybody thinks about him, and that is going to be on all Americans. Whether this is also legal or not is to be decided. But this is scary, folks. This is what an authoritarian government does, especially when their leader is, paranoid and wants to make sure that everybody sees him in the best light. And of course, Trump says he's doing this so he can, weed out more illegal immigrants. That's why he wants him to do this. So, I don't know. You tell me what you think about this. Let's move on. Also in the news, yes, Marco Rubio. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on just this past Thursday revised his proposal to overhaul the State Department to include a new undersecretary level position to oversee foreign aid after his April proposal was panned by Democrats for downgrading the role of the international assistance and human rights in the Department of State. Now, in an official transmitted letter to Congress, Rubio laid out his detailed proposal for consolidating or eliminating many offices that the Trump administration views as unnecessary to the United States foreign policy interests. The reorganization plan would result in a more agile department, better equipped to promote America's interests and keep Americans safe across the world, so said Rubio. Now, adding that his revisions take into account feedback received from lawmakers and longtime Bureau employees, which I find that hard to believe. What is not mentioned, though, is how Trump wants Rubio to move the FBI and the Department of State agencies to increase deportation, as Trump does not think the agencies are moving fast enough. Now, this is actually true, because the fact of the matter is that Trump has been in touch with Marco Rubio, our illustrious former state senator here in Florida, to do more to get more mass deportations going. He doesn't think they're moving fast enough and getting enough people. So even though what he says here in this statement about consolidating the State Department agencies and offices, what is actually wants to happen, he wants to combine all of that with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and get the FBI doing more mass deportations instead of other stuff, and help the State Department round up more people. So as you can see, you know how that's going to go. Also, as you know, Marco Rubio just said recently he's going to be revoking more visas of Chinese students associated with colleges and universities. That's got to happen as well. So, I don't know. Yeah, we got more and more people leaving the United States, not by their choice, and many of them are U.S. citizens. If you probably heard the news, a 2-year-old girl who had a passport, a social security number, and state ID was deported just because her parents were undocumented. Even though she was U.S. citizens, ICE rounded her up and threw them in with her parents and said, "Get out of here." So, I don't know. It's scary, folks, isn't it? Yeah. Well, let's take a little bit more humorous tone here, although Trump really didn't think it was humorous. Trump responded to his taco tariff acronym, which he rejects, which is chickening out claims. President Trump rejects that he is not chickening out after setting destructively high tariff rates, as we just recently discussed, and then pulling them back again. You know, the on-again, off-again tariffs. It's called negotiation, he said. It's a reference to what's known as the taco trade. trade, a term that stands for Trump always chickens out. Now, as you look at these pictures that I found, the internet, of course, and social media is just having a field day with that term. They've been abuzz with having fun with that taco acronym. These pictures, you have to admit, are funny. Now, before anybody says that's disgusting and that's degrading the United States president, you got to keep in mind Trump, as with anybody else, is a public figure, and people have the right to, poke a little fun at him. Comedians do it every night on late night television, and so you have a little fun with these. I know Trump doesn't think they're funny, but you got to have a little humor in everything, don't you? So don't get too, people have done this with Biden and past presidents, everybody else. So, yeah, but Trump also, he slammed Joe Biden even with his cancer diagnosis, saying he does not feel sorry for him. Now, that is not funny. When you degrade somebody that has a perhaps life-threatening illness, and then you have to say mean things about him. Watch this clip.
It's the one thing I can't figure out, and I don't believe it was Joe Biden. I really don't. I mean, look, he's been a sort of a moderate person over his lifetime, not a smart person, but a somewhat vicious person, I will say. If you feel sorry for him, don't feel so sorry because he's vicious. What he did with his political opponent and all of the people that he hurt a lot of people, Biden, and so I really don't feel sorry for him.
Now, in this same clip, and I didn't show every bit of it, I mean, it's a fairly lengthy interview he had with the media, but that one piece there where he doesn't feel sorry for Joe Biden because he thinks he was mean and ruthless, and, of course, Trump's not, but Joe Biden was. And to say those things is hurtful, not only to the American people, but to his family as well. And that just does not show any kind of I'm sure somewhere in Donald Trump, he has a heart. He's got to. Whether he has a soul or not, well, we don't know. But to say those kinds of things, that was really uncalled for. And also in that same press conference, he said that he's solely responsible for bringing down the cost of gasoline to $1.99 a gallon. Well, Donald Trump here in Florida, I've been here quite a while. I've never seen $1.99 a gallon on gasoline anywhere. Now, it may have hit that at one point briefly in places like Oklahoma or Tennessee, which has low gas prices, and that is only because they don't have a lot of state and county taxes on gasoline. But here in Florida, the lowest I've seen it is $2.89 a gallon, and that was for 1 week. And currently, Mr. President, the gas here is $3.09 to $3.19 a gallon. So I said 3, not 1, 3. So please tell me where you have seen that nationwide. He also went on about the immigrants and how all of them, millions of them, are all illegals. They're all felons. And, as I said, they just deported a U.S. citizen, a young girl, 2 years old, and out with her parents because they weren't documented. But for statistics, and these are hard to find, but they're out there. You can find them. And it is saying that less than 2% so far of the thousands and thousands of people that have been rounded up and deported have any kind of criminal record at all, more or less even being a felon with serious criminal records. The rest of them, they're just rounding them up and sadly using profiling. That's all you can think about because that's how they pull them over. They see Hispanic or people that look like they're from Colombia and stuff and pull them over and then check them out and then they deport them. So I don't know where you're getting off on saying that these people know exactly how they are supposed to be criminals and not. Without checking records. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on. So also in the news, yes, Donald Trump has pardoned a reality TV couple who were sentenced to prison after defrauding banks of at least $30 million. This is Trump's latest little thing on pardoning anybody and everybody that has a criminal record. Now, the Chrisleys, and there's Todd and Julie right there, he pardoned them by the pleading of their daughter, Savannah, and he listened to her and got them full pardon. And I say full pardon, they have no criminal record at all now. As I said, they were charged of defrauding banks of at least $30 million, and they let them out. And this is just another string of gestures that appeared to benefit supporters of the United States president. Julie and Todd Chrisley, stars of the USA Network show Chrisley's Knows Best, and growing up with Chrisley that showed the family's lavish lifestyle, were convicted in 2022 of taking out more than $30 million in fraudulent loans from company banks. And then after their conviction, a judge sentenced Todd Chrisley to 12 years in prison, while his wife received 7 years behind bars. And just so you know, Julie is still not quite out of prison yet. She's supposed to be released here like any day, but right now she's still sitting behind bars. So they're going to try to figure out when she's going to get out. And there's another one here that I'm going to bring up to you right now, and that's this gentleman. This guy here is a former Virginia sheriff, and just after he pardoned Todd and Julie Christie, they pardoned this guy. He was supposed to report to prison just in a couple of days, and he's the former Culpeper County sheriff, and his name is Scott Jenkins. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. That's right, 10 years in prison, for accepting $75,000 in bribes and padding his sheriff's department with untrained, wealthy Virginia businessmen. You're scared. Honestly, you're scared, Jenkins said of his sentencing. You may have been a cop all your life, but you're sitting here going. And they want to put me in prison for life. And now instead of going to prison, Jenkins is going to be free thanks to President Trump. Now, this is basically, as you know, when you accept money from business people and then you deputize them without any training, without anything, and you're taking all this money from them, it's graft. I mean, it's illegal as hell. And that's what he was convicted of. And the evidence was all there. Yet, President Trump, who's a 34-counted felon himself, pardons this guy. Now, as a part of a spree of more than 24 clemency actions this week, United States President Donald Trump on Wednesday commuted the federal prison sentences of Larry Hoover, another one. He's the founder of the notorious Chicago street gang. Hoover was the leader of the Gangster Disciples, and in the 1990s was given 6 life sentences on conspiracy, extortion, drug, and other criminal charges. In addition to his federal sentence, Hoover still faces a 200-year jail term in the state of Illinois for murder, and it's unlikely to be released soon. A president is unable to commute state-level sentences, just so you know. They only can commute federal sentences. So if you got a state sentence, that's on you. Thank God. And on Wednesday, the president also granted a pardon to other convicts, including Michael Grimm, a former New York City congressman. He served 7 months in prison after pleading guilty to felony tax fraud, as well as Hoover and Grimm. At least 8 others have been pardoned by the president in recent days. The New York Times reported that Trump issued a total of 25 pardons or commutations, commuting of prison sentences on this past Wednesday. Department of Justice records indicate that during his second term, Trump has pardoned more than 40 people, in addition to almost 1,600 pardons doled out to people charged or convicted in connection with the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol riot. All those people, he felt, hey, you're just showing your First Amendment rights. Go ahead and storm the Capitol. It's okay. I'll pardon you. When he was president the first time around, he pardoned 237 people, according to a Pew Research Center. Most of these occurred in the final months of his term. What is a presidential pardon? Hoover, 74, built the Gangster Disciples into a nationwide street gang from its origins in Chicago's South Side in the 1970s. In 1973, he was convicted of ordering the execution of a rival drug dealer. Now, this is what's important, folks. This guy also basically is an accessory to murder, and Trump pardoned him of the federal charges. As I mentioned earlier, he still has state charges which Trump can't do anything about, and so he'll probably stay behind bars. But when you see stuff like this, you got to think to yourself, what the hell is going on? And it's it's just flat out scary. Authorities allege that he continued to lead his gang from prison, which is very possible. And I mean, this guy, the Gangster Disciples, folks, it has just a long record of just doing destructive, murdering, and evil things. And it's really sad what this guy can do, and still get away with stuff. And I don't know what else you can say about it. I do want to say one thing that I think that we should all be aware of is when Trump goes around and pardons all these people, when he's a convicted felon himself, you've got to think to yourself, just what in the world is going on here? And he has this campaign that he thinks all these illegal immigrants are criminals and murderers and thugs and thieves, and they're in the United States, and yet he turns right around, and the very same people that have those same kinds of backgrounds, he's pardoning them. So if you're a white privileged guy or something else, I don't know, I guess you're okay to be pardoned. But if you're not, then you're going to be deported. So it's just unbelievable. Anyway, in other news, Elon Musk is back in the news again. Yes, he is. Elon Musk's days working at the White House, as we are well aware of, is now over. He has moved on because he needs to save his own company. So there you go. His stockholders have said to him, Elon, you need to get back and work where you need to work at, not be around the White House. So, Musk, the billionaire Talahassee CEO, whom President Trump enlisted to cut waste in the federal government, started offboarding from his role Wednesday. A White House official told NBC News a day after he criticized a Republican bill to fund much of Trump's agenda that he was done. Two sources later confirmed that Musk's more than a 114-day-long tenure as a special government employee officially concluded Wednesday. Now, Musk commented on his exit Wednesday on his social media post, a company that he owns, X, that he called for the Doge mission to become a way of life throughout the government, referring to his Department of Government Efficiency initiative. As my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending, wrote Musk, who is the richest man in the world. Now, what is not being discussed, and again, this is on the news, it's been verified, and it is alleged. So keep those two things in mind before I move on. Alleged, but verified, is this: Elon Musk engaged in extensive drug consumption while serving as one of Donald Trump's closest advisors. Taking ketamine so frequently it caused bladder problems for him, and while traveling with a daily supply of approximately 20 pills, according to claims made to the New York Times. Now, that's the source. New York Times, as you know, has a lot of investigative reporters. So this is what the New York Times is reporting. Not me, not Roy Garden. The New York Times. And again, it is alleged. All right? I'm not saying it's true or not true. It's alleged. And New York Times is the one coming out with this story. So the world's richest man regularly consumed ketamine, ecstasy, and psychedelic mushrooms during his rise to political prominence. Anonymous sources familiar with his activities told the New York Times. His drug use reportedly intensified as he donated $275 million to Trump's presidential campaign and later wielded significant power throughout his roles, spearheading the Department of Government Efficiencies, or DOGE, as we all come to know it today. Musk announced his departure from government service on Wednesday evening, months after exhibiting erratic behavior, including insulting cabinet members and making a Nazi-like salute at a recent political rally. So there you go. Elon Musk, as much money as he has, does not, I don't care how much money you got, it does not take care of you as a person with your own emotional and mental capabilities. And I say the same for that to Donald Trump as well. There are many, many people who are, questioning his own mental capacity and some of the erratic things that he does as a president. So, and his, though, I think has more to do with his age than, anything else. So I'll just leave it at that. But, people seem to think that, well, I don't need to worry about that. So, he's doing a good job. So, let's just look at our former president. He couldn't do anything either. Well, both of them are becoming elderly people. So, whether you're thinking of Joe Biden, and all the magnet people can make all the comments they want about him, but they won't make any comments about their current president, Donald Trump, because he can do no wrong. But people have observed that he also has erratic behavior. Look at his speech that he just gave at West Point. He was all over the place. And then they had the audacity to turn around and make fun of another university that had Kermit the Frog. But that was such an emotional, wonderful thing where everybody could connect with that and what he had to say. Nobody at West Point could connect with what Donald Trump was saying. And then, he shook just about a few hands of the graduates at West Point. And then he said he had important duties he had to leave early because he had important duties to talk about China and Russia, and he had to get right on that. And then, of course, he flew directly to his golf course and played golf. So I wonder about that as well. So, speaking about colleges and universities, yes, Harvard is back in the news again. Harvard University won a reprieve in its fight to enroll international students after the Trump administration appeared to walk back its initial decertification, and a federal judge upheld a block on the government's order. The Department of Homeland Security said Thursday it would now give Harvard University 30 days to prove it meets the requirements of the Student Exchange Visitor Program, or SCVP, which authorities and universities to host academics on visas. So that's what that's about. A letter from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem its intent to withdraw certification. Harvard needs to have foreign students on campus. Failure to respond to this notice within the time allotted will result in the withdrawal of your school's certification, she wrote. So we will see how that goes. The Trump administration has ordered U.S. consulates and worldwide also to conduct mandatory social media screening on every visa applicant seeking to travel to Harvard University, with officials instructed to view private accounts as potential signs of evasiveness. A State Department cable signed by the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, whom we just talked about earlier, requires immediate enhancement vetting of all Harvard-bound students, faculty, staff, speakers, and other visitors as part of what officials describe as a pilot program that could expand to other universities. Just stuff, more crap they're coming up with to punish Harvard because they're fighting back. And how dare anybody fight back Donald Trump? How dare you? The policy takes effect immediately at all U.S. embassies and consulate. Now, that in itself is just, when Trump loses one battle, he creates something else so he can battle again. And that's just the nature of what he likes to do. It's just unbelievable how he does stuff. But, that's the current world that we now live in. You get somebody like Harvard who likes to fight back, and God bless them that they do. They're standing up for their rights. Then Trump comes up with other things because he does not like to lose, and when he does lose, he's a sore loser, and he'll let you know. So we'll just have to see where this winds up, folks. But the fight continues. Now, this next story, with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, this is going to be kind of fun, and because she has quite a few little things going on here. A claim by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem that an immigrant threatened the life of the President Donald Trump has begun to just unravel just a bit. Noam announced an arrest of a 50-year-old man who was living in the United States illegally, saying that he had handwritten a letter. I mean, it's not funny. Excuse my little chuckle there, but when you get into the story, you're going to see how it's unraveling, because it's what is funny is how, the Trump administration says a lot of stuff and then it comes back to bite them in the butt. I mean, they kind of stretch the truth or lie, if you will. And then, reporters do a little digging, and then they come back and have to backtrack. But anyway, the letter was threatening to kill Trump and would then return to Mexico. Then he was going to go to Mexico. He is in ICE custody at the Dodge County Jail in Juneau. I apologize. The story received a flood of media attention and was highlighted by the White House and Trump's allies. But investigators, here's the thing, actually believe the man may have been framed so that he would get arrested and get deported from the United States before he got a chance to testify in a trial as a victim of assault. A person familiar with the matter told the Associated Press. The Associated Press, the one that Trump will not let on the jet because he doesn't like them, because they have a lot of stories that are against him. The person could not publicly discuss details of the investigation and spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity. The law enforcement officials believe that the man, and yes, I do have a picture of this guy here, and this is the guy that they are talking about. Ramon Morales Reyes never wrote a letter, and that Newman and her department shared with a message written in light blue ink expressing anger over Trump's deportations and threatening to shoot him in the head with a rifle at a rally. Newman also shared the letter on X along with a photo of Morales Reyes, and the White House also shared it on social media accounts. The letter was then mailed to an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office along with the FBI and other agencies, this person said. So they highlighted the supposed letter that this guy wrote and then forwarded it on to the, working departments to get this guy picked up. And so there you go. Did this man, in fact, write this threatening letter? And is it true? He said he never wrote that letter and that he was going on into court for other reasons. And then Norman, highlighted, the letter thing and then sent it to other people to get him picked up. So he'll probably be long gone and off to El Salvador, wherever they're shipping all these thousands and thousands of people, and we'll never know. It'll be buried in government paperwork. And so the people that did this investigative report, good for you. How you're going to find out if it's in fact true or not is going to be, it's going to be a long time before you actually ever know, won't you? And in other news, yes, the Supreme Court on Friday allowed the Trump administration to temporarily pause a humanitarian program that has allowed nearly 500,000 people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to enter the United States and remain here legally for 2 years. That program is now over. The move to grant a stay in the case means that the Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans who were granted temporary parole under the program known as CHNV would lose their temporary legal status to be in the United States. And this could potentially be deported, in which they probably will be, while the case plays out in lower courts. Meanwhile, I'm sure they're going to be put on those little funny planes and just zoop, off you go. See ya! The court did not give a reason for its brief order. So they're all going to be deported. They will be. Trump will act on that immediately. He's already publicly said that, this thing that Biden created is a terrible thing. And, of course, he doesn't feel sorry for him. And back in that press interview that we saw earlier. Now, let's bring everything home to Florida as we close up this edition of The Right Has Left. Here in Florida, ICE hit a construction site in Ron DeSantis' backyard in Tallahassee. DeSantis thought the raids was a very good thing. Watch this.
Get on the ground! Hey, get on the fucking ground! Give me this thing!
Law enforcement officers and federal agents, some wearing masks and camouflage uniforms, conducted multiple anti-illegal immigration raids that morning here in Florida, and in our state's capital city, Tallahassee, including a 7-story mixed-use development near campus called Pilera that was being built in the enclave. And that's where the raid took place on these videos that you just seen. Videos of laborers getting tackled to the ground by agents happened about 9 o'clock in the morning. It went really quick, and by noon, many of Tallahassee's construction sites were silent. ICE agents talking to construction workers arrested more construction workers as they chatted with them, pulled them down, and zipped up and tied them all one to another during the raid in College Town on Thursday. And we're speaking, of course, when I say College Town, Tallahassee, Florida. This just recently happened. Now, in social media posts later that afternoon, Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, Tampa wrote, that's where they're located in Tampa. They wrote that the raid was a collaboration between ICE, the Florida Department of Highway Safety, and the Motor Vehicles Division, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, Miami Division of the Federal Bureau of Investigations Office, out of Jacksonville as well, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive Office out of Tampa. U.S. Marshal Services was also involved in the Criminal Investigations Division of the Internal Revenue Service. They all participated. See how you get all these all good old boys together, and they plan a thing, and then they all pat at you, each on the back, and go, attaboy, attaboy. You know, we all want to participate, and we all want to be in on the action. So you get about, 10, 15 different agencies all together and get in there and pick up these illegal immigrants. They all participated in the arrest, and they picked up about 100 illegal aliens, some who were previously reported, and then others had some criminal backgrounds at this major construction site. The construction site, by the way, they're building dorms for University of Florida there. So, the Gators. So during this targeted enforcement operation, the illegal aliens, they were reported to be from Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Colombia, and Honduras, just to name a few. Local officials said that the 4 arrests were processed at the Leon County Detention Center. That's how many they processed, 4 of them. And the rest, of course, they were all detained, were expected to be bused to immigration detention centers in Walton and Baker counties. And other social media posts, the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles hailed it as a massive operation. 100 of them. That's massive. Florida leads the way, they said, toting their horns. The agency wrote, "We will not tolerate illegal immigration." Now, Governor Ron DeSantis and the Florida legislature have pushed the state to become the toughest on illegal immigration in the country this year, enacting laws and directing hundreds of millions of dollars to state and local law enforcement to expand the state's authority to detain and house undocumented immigrants to comply with President Donald Trump's mass deportation mandate. Now, I'm going to pause here because I talked about this in earlier podcasts, but what you don't hear here is as they round up and deport these thousands of illegal immigrants and round them up and bust them out, construction sites come to a screeching halt because they have nobody to work for them. And Governor Ron DeSantis earlier passed this child law to where kids as young as 14 can be worked 12-hour days. They don't get any breaks, just like the adults don't now. The companies don't have to give water breaks or anything when you're out there working. But can you imagine this? Kids as young as 14 years old can work 12-hour days. See, what they're trying to do is a lot of these farmers, not so much construction sites, but these people that have to pick oranges and all the wonderful fruits that come out of Florida, since they don't have any of these illegal immigrants work for them, they're going to put kids to work, and they can do the picking. And you can be only 14 years old, and you can work. And kids can also now work all night long if they want to, and it's perfectly legal. So that's DeSantis' answer to people who are saying, well, I don't have anybody to work for us. Well, I'll put those damn kids to work then, and I'll change the law so you can work them as much as you want and as hard as you want, and you don't have to give them any breaks or anything now. Yeah, the 15-minute breaks are gone. So this is what's so dang scary about all this. Is the fact of the matter is these immigrants that they're all throwing out it's freaking scary. And as I wrap up here, I understand that a lot of these illegal immigrants, yes, They may have criminal backgrounds, and I'm in favor of that, of deporting them, if they in fact are true felons. But you can't sit here as I broadcast this and sit here and tell me that every single one of these people that are being deported have illegal backgrounds. They're felons. They are here just simply working because they can't get the same kind of jobs in their home countries. And so they come here to work, honest, hard workers, just like a lot of those laborers were. They're in Tallahassee, and they make the money, and then they send that money back to their families in Honduras and Nicaragua. And you can't sit there and tell me all these thousands of people being rounded up, because it's already been proven a lot of these folks being rounded up are, in fact, United States citizens. And they have the passports and everything else, yet they still ship them out. They're not checking them. They don't care to check them. They don't want to check them because President Trump says just get them the hell out of here. You're not a white privileged person. I don't want to see your face. Get out of here. And that's basically what it's boiling down to. And these Republicans can say anything they want to your face and to their constituents and saying they're doing a great job, but they're not doing a great job because they don't care. And that happens here in Florida. You're getting rid of these people who work hard, and nobody else is going to do the job. You can't find a white privileged guy say, I'm going to pick fruit or I'm going to pound nails and stuff. Oh, hell, they're not going to do that. I'm better than that. So let's just get rid of the people that do want to do that because they don't care. These people will work hard because they want to make some money to send back to their families. But we want to ship them out of here. So there you go. That's my edition of The Right Has Left today. I'm Roy Garten, your host. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I look forward to your comments. I get a lot of comments that are, of course, pro-Magna and, they rattle on. They say things they can't have nothing to fact check it with, but they like to rattle on, and that's fine. It's a free country. That's why I do this podcast. It's a free country. We all have the right to express our opinion. And even when, the Trump administration does good things, I of course talk about that. I'm not ashamed to do that. When I see something that's great that's happening, that's great. It's just like these mass deportations. If you would just take the time to make sure that you're deporting the people who need to be deported, not just anybody and everything, and that boils down to this birthright thing, that's going for the Supreme Court. I'm anxious to see how that comes out. You go back to the Statue of Liberty and look at that plaque. Bring me your tired, your poor. People, that's just gone out with the bathwater. We might as well just take the Statue of Liberty and dump it into the Atlantic Ocean because that doesn't even stand for anything anymore, does it? No, it doesn't. Y'all have a good week. Until next week, I'm Roy Garten for The Right Has Left. Have a good day.